From Monday, the 7th of October 2019, Natural Resources Wales will be issuing new general licences. Obviously, in light of legal advice, obviously because of the issues that we had with our general licences earlier in the year, they put their general licences up for a sort of a renewal, if you like, and they went out and got some evidence, and I said they went out and talked to stakeholders, clearly listened to none of the ones that actually do wildlife management or actually have any proper stake in this, and have issued or will issue on the 7th of October new licenses. The first license that will be issued is GL001, and that is for the prevention of serious damage to livestock, foodstuffs and crops. This license is changing to remove rook, jay and collared dove from that agenda. So why? Well, we can kind of understand why they removed jay and collared dove, because as much as they do interfere with those things, perhaps there is other reasons to control those birds. But rooks are a major agricultural pest, which we all know about. They hit crops, they hit them hard, and they need to be controlled. So, Natural Resources Wales say that the rook population of Wales has collapsed by 50% in the last 10 years and 60% in the last 25 years. So it's actually on a rather steep decline recently, which is really not great. However, like with all things, it's treating the symptoms, isn't it? Their overall population may have crashed. However, I can almost guarantee that the populations on certain areas and in certain agricultural areas will still be a stronghold. It's all about the wider picture wildlife management, isn't it? That actually what one needs to take into account why that has collapsed, and maybe look into it more than just look at the figures, although it's kind of hard, obviously. But the rook is still green listed. It's not rare, in fact it's extremely common. So perhaps that should be looked at further, although I'm not qualified to talk about it, so let's move on. The second general licence is GL002, which is the licence for preserving public health. That's really been stripped down to the bone. In fact, the only thing left on there is feral pigeon. That's going to make pest controllers' jobs really very, very hard. Although, I mean, at least they left feral pigeon on. Just look at the bright side, they could have removed everything. The whole preventing public health and preventing the spread of disease is all about transmission, and it's all about culling numbers in hotbeds like parks and the like, because that's actually a real hotbed for transmission. And that's why you're allowed to control those other birds, not potentially because they are potentially a pest, but because they are spreaders. They are transmitters of disease. And so you wouldn't perhaps have used the license for all of those species, but nevertheless it's kind of handy to be able to use them without having to apply for an individual license. And of course you will still be able to do that, but that's not really making life easy, is it? It's actually putting many more barriers in the way that is not conducive to good wildlife and management. In fact, it's not even called an individual license in Wales, it's called a specific license from Natural Resources Wales, but it's kind of very similar to our individual license process. GL004 is the license for conserving wild birds. It is the license that most wildlife managers, gamekeepers and conservationists will use on the most regular basis, or the one they will cite, although that same work can perhaps work with some of the other licenses as well. Unfortunately, GL004 is now limited to the protection of red and amber listed species. The license it replaced was for all wild birds, so it was a lot easier to use as a keeper to look after your more common birds, you know. It's almost one of those strange preventative licenses. Well, it's not a preventative license, is it? It's reactionary. A bird gets endangered or red or amber listed, we best look after it. Obviously that still includes grouse and grey partridge, so there is positive there, so the keepers might be able to use it, but only if they have those birds on their ground, or else they could fall foul of the law. Luckily, other waders are on that list, and so you still can protect wildlife. However, you cannot use it for adult birds either. So it's a bit of a difficulty. It's only for eggs and chicks, so technically until we see the license actual and have the ability to read it through and do a really good job scanning it, it's whether they allow the prevention. A bit like you're allowed to, for control of crops in this country, shoot if you expect from experience that damage is going to occur. And I do hope it includes that, or else being able to control crows for like 2-3 months of the year, 3 or 4 months of the year, is going to be really hard work and detrimental to wildlife on the whole. More importantly, a lot of those predator species do predate on adult birds. Anyway, that's pretty much that. They removed GL003, which was for aviation safety, purely based on the fact that they don't have that many aerodromes in Wales. So I can kind of understand that, and that won't affect too many people, hopefully, seeing as everybody in that position is still allowed to apply for a personal license. The only change, and it's not really a change for the better, but the only change on where you can use it is that you cannot use it on SSIs. However, they, instead of not allowing it on nearly 1,100 sites, now only disallow it not on, I think, 300 air sites, and you have to be within 300 meters, or not allowed to be controlling within 300 meters of those sites. I mean, we all know that a lot of wildlife reserves and SSIs are actually hotbeds for all of these pest species, but they won't listen to that, obviously. Final important things: you can be prosecuted for operating on the old licenses, so please do not fall foul of the law. Ignorance is not a excuse, unfortunately, in this case. If you are not happy with these licenses, they are completing a full review in 2020, and there will be options, I expect, a wider review process to be able to input your thoughts to your representatives of field sports, who will be putting them forward to Natural Resources Wales. Unfortunately, Natural Resources Wales already went to all of the organisations and asked for opinions. They also asked for opinions from not only from the users of the general licence, but from non-using stakeholders. And that's always where these things fall foul, isn't it? Is talking to people who care about birds but don't quite understand some of the mucky stuff that has to go into wildlife management to keep populations positive in a way that we'd like. And obviously, wildlife management is all about creating something that we want to see, and if we want to see a more diverse suite of birds, one does need to control the more general species or general predators, let alone looking after crops. And I really feel sorry for all arable farmers in Wales right now, given that you can't shoot rooks to protect your crops in the coming season. Anyway, so make sure you submit evidence for review. Make sure you keep on the right side of this really unworkable licence, and hopefully Natural Resources Wales, however undemocratic they are and however unscientifically based a lot of their studies are, well, let's hope that they help. Let's hope they sort specific licences out for those who need it, and let's hope in the 2020 review they actually put out something that's significantly more workable and definitely more positive for countryside management. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, goodbye, and we'll see you next time.